Hello, my friends. I'm Kayla. I have been on BookTube for over 10 years, and I have this ongoing series where each month I kind of celebrate the 10 years in some kind of way, sometimes with just a sit-down discussion, sometimes with a vlog. Today is a vlog, a spin-off from a sit-down discussion that happened last month. So I sat down with you and we rewatched 10 years of most anticipated videos where I talked about everything that I've successfully completed, everything still on my TBR, and just the things that I haven't read that I have anticipated so heavily the last 10 years. And I come to you today to figure out what books of those 84 remaining unread that I'm going to read. I successfully completed 332. So hooray. But there are still so many that I haven't read, and I talked about in that video that I'm not interested in most of them. And so I was grappling with trying to figure out how to do this video, how to do it successfully in a way that you and I would both be satisfied. I'm gonna read 5 books, but I'm gonna leave it up to you/fate. I do not have the time nor energy nor interest to read one book from every single year. If we look at all of these that I have remaining, if you look at the bottom 2 rows, those are just from the last 2 years. Obviously, the longer ago I made a TBR and I was anticipating things, the more likely I will have read them. But the first row encompasses 2015, 16, 17, and 18, I'm pretty sure. And while I do feel like I want to commit to the bit and read something from each year, I just don't have enough interest to do that. And you always tell me to read what I want. So I asked you to leave your prompts in the comments, and there were so many comments and so many prompt ideas. So I exported them all. I put them in a spreadsheet. I'm gonna spin a wheel between 1 and 500, and whatever prompt that aligns with, I'm gonna pick that prompt and I'm gonna do that 5 times. And my kind of goal is I would like to pick one from each line. I don't want to just, as much as I do want to just read the most anticipated, most recent ones, like the last 2 rows, maybe even just the last row. But I think to satisfy the idea of going back, I do at least want to read one thing from the first row. And so I think one from each of the rows would kind of satisfy everything that we're looking for. Hopefully the prompts lead me in a direction where that works. I saw a lot of the prompts as they came in, and they were relatively loose and let me retain a good amount of control. So we're just gonna spin, and I might have to chop this up because there are quite a few comments that aren't prompts. They're just very kind, lovely comments. But let's begin. Oh, I'm terrified. Okay, damn. Who knew it would take this long to go? 324 to go through 500 comments. Okay, let's find 324. And that prompt from Catherine mentions a couple books that she wants me to read, but also says my prompt is read whatever you want to read. What a way to kick this off. How did I just get so lucky? So I'm not gonna go through and select right now. Should I? What I most want to read right now is probably a romance. Just if I'm being honest, I'm in my lover girl era. I just want to read something light and sweet, but I'm not going to pick anything right now because the rest of the prompts could lead me in different directions, and then I'll want to save this one for later. So let's do spin number 2. 336. Okay, we're really getting the high numbers. That's from oh my god, I used to know how to pronounce this. Myriad's Bookshelves? Prompt, read the book that was published closest to your birth date in that year. Oh gosh, okay, this is gonna require a good amount of research. Okay, let's hold on to that one. We now have our second prompt. Spin again, go for our third. 166, okay. This is from Robin. Robin said 5 books would be fine. So Robin has my back. A prompt with a moon on the cover. Wait, that's so fun. And it's also one of my favorite things on covers, so I feel like there's probably a good amount of them. I don't see any in the first row. The second, okay, we have the Cerulean, we have We Are the Wildcats, we have Cia Martinez in the Moonlight Beginning of Everything, we have The Baby Is Mine. There are so many in that row. In fact, oh no, we have Out There in the 3rd row. I think that might be all of our moons. So that is going to, I need to start writing this down. The 3rd row is gonna be, or no, the 2nd row is gonna be the moon prompt. Okay. Wait, this is so fun doing it in different rows. So that'll help control things a little bit, but also let things go crazy. Okay. Next. The anticipation. 332. Another high number. Wait, I feel like I already did 332. No? That's from Jordan. Read a book with alliteration in the title or a book with a title that rhymes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this one, there's gonna be really specific books that fit for that. Let's pull out a couple right now that I can see. In the very first row, I see Stay Sweet. That's alliteration, starting with the same letter. We Are the Wildcats. That's a bunch of W's. Daisy Darker, double D's. A double D's. Shut up. But then also rhyming. Is there any rhyming? I don't think so, but we already have options, so that's good. And now we're already on our final spin. Okay. I'm scared. 55, finally a low one. Goldie Toad, thank you so much for your comment. Prompt, the least read and most read on Goodreads, or a book with a cover that matches the weather. Okay, well, the weather is smoky because there are some fires happening right now. Most read and least read, that's like, I would have to combine those two, and I only have one prompt left. So I think we're gonna do a cover that matches the weather. Which, like, what can we say? Is there smoke? I mean, there's fire. Okay, there's fire on some of these covers. We've got, you know, Court of Wanderers, Bless Your Heart, She's Too Pretty to Burn, but it does say the weather, and I don't think fire is weather. Smoky fog, like I could show you out the window. It's just like, you can't really see very far. So foggy covers, I've definitely got some of those. We have like The Appeal. We've got Daisy Darker. These are more like mist. Oh, I even have Teeth in the Mist or The Cerulean again. Those are like misty, foggy. You Like It Darker. I kind of have free reign with that one to make it whatever I want. The Long Weekend also is like Off in the Distance, smoky. It's really just gray though. Like it is gray, and I kind of want to pick The Appeal. I feel like that's the first one that I'm like, no wait, I actually want to read that, and if it's for a prompt. And I think it came out in 2021, so at least that's not the last couple years. So here's what I'm thinking. The Appeal from the third row for the weather. I feel like this won't be the most popular pick because maybe I just don't really want to read a lot of YA if I don't have to, but there is so much of that in the first and second row, or thrillers that just don't seem the most interesting. But The Baby Is Mine does have a moon on it, and I feel like I could pick that one. With the alliteration, I could read Stay Sweet, so I have something from a way long time ago that has that. And then what do I have left? For whatever I want to read then, I'm gonna pick The Breakup Pact in the fifth row, and the fourth row is the one I'm gonna do my birth date. So let me pull up all of the Goodreads for all of these, and we'll go through and see which is the closest release date to March 29th. I think the fourth row is a good one to pick for this prompt because I am like kind of interested in all of them still. Like these weren't too long ago that I put them on my TBR. So whatever it ends up being, I think I'll be happy with. I don't have the most interest in the anthologies. Like I'm kind of burnt out on short story collections. I don't really want to read a YA short story collection, but I will if I must. So let's begin with Our Shadows Have Claws. This is from September 2022. The Grimoire of Grave Fates was June. Okay, we're safe so far. Three Kisses, One Midnight, August. Eternally Yours, September. I think that was all of them. Oh no, Reclaim the Stars, February. Okay, this is the closest one to my birth date so far from 2022. Is this whole row 2022? No, I feel like it's 2022 and 2023, maybe. Oh, The Way Spring Arrives. I haven't looked. Have you looked? This one could very well be very close because it's about spring. It probably came out in the spring. March 8th. Okay, this might be the one we end up reading. Next up is The Chosen One. Okay, that was January. These Fleeting Shadows, August. A Far Wilder Magic, March 8th. Was that the same? That was the same. Okay, I would rather pick this one. Actually, this one is intriguing. It is YA, but I read the first chapter of it and I liked the vibes. Okay, What We Harvest. Oh, March 15th. Okay, this is now our pick, which I'm a little less intrigued by, but I'm down to read that one. I Am the Ghost in Your House, April 19th. Oh God, what's closer? April 19th is 21 days away from my birthday, and March 15th is 14 days away. Okay, we're good. A Half-Built Garden, July. The Only Survivors, April 11th. That's 13 days away. Okay, so this is now our new pick. This is a roller coaster. Okay. Yeah, I'd be down to read this. The Late Americans, May 23rd. The Survivalists. Look at that average rating. That's crazy. January. She Is a Haunting, February. And Camp Zero, March 30th. Oh my God, we ended with the last one, and that one happens to be the closest to my birthday. Look at that average rating. That's horrifying. Or April 4th. Maybe the edition that I have, because this isn't the edition I have. It doesn't matter. This is officially the closest one. Didn't somebody, the first prompt that I did with whatever I wanted to read mentioned that they wanted me to read Camp Zero. Okay, I guess we kind of came full circle from the beginning to the end of this whole situation of deciding what I'm reading. Here's what I'm reading. I made those decisions very quickly. Am I going to regret any of these choices? I don't know. But I think 3 of these are actively on my TBR shelf. And I think that's also what you want me to read, is things that I still have, because obviously there is some intrigue here. All right, I guess I'll see you when I start reading something. Another new author to me, Janice Hallett, has a book called The Appeal. And it says, in a town full of secrets, someone was murdered, someone went to prison, and everyone's a suspect. Can you uncover the truth? The whole book seems to be documents, and as you're reading, you are meant to figure out the mystery. Good morning. I just left a physio appointment, and while I was waiting, I started The Appeal. I'm so hooked already. I love all of these characters. I'm just headed to the bookstore. I'm gonna grab a couple things. I also have to show you the edition that I have of The Appeal is not even the same one in the image, so like it doesn't have that smoky vibe. But yeah, I'm 20 pages in and it's only emails, but you're getting such a good idea of all these characters' personalities already. Okay, I'm already here. Oh look, they have all of their Halloween stuff, all the fall vibes in the window. Okay, I'm gonna buy some books and then I'll tell you what I was gonna tell you. Here's what I got from Mosaic. I grabbed the new ML Rio out today, and I grabbed Burial Tide. The Burial Tide? The Burial Tide by Neil Sharpson, which I originally thought was like a monster werewolf. And people were like, Kayla, that's a seal. That's very obviously a seal, or a sea lion. Now I don't remember. So clearly it's not that obvious to me. But I am at the grocery store with my husband. We both had, my husband, you know who he is. We both had appointments at the same time. My physio went well. This was my 3rd appointment, I think my final appointment. I fell off my bed. I told you in a different vlog, and it was really bad for like a week, and everyone told me to go to the physio. So I did, and now I feel almost 100%, so that's exciting. The Appeal, I still don't even know, and I don't know if you're supposed to know going into it what like the big event, what the crime is, but you're reading a collection of documents, mostly emails. Well, I'm only 30 pages in, from this group of people who are putting on this theater performance, this play, and something has happened with them. One of them, the people who like run the whole thing, their granddaughter has gotten sick with cancer. And one of our characters, who we aren't getting emails from, but we're getting a lot of emails to, and they're being talked about a lot. There's Sam and her husband Kel, and they're like new to town, and a bunch of these people also work at the hospital together, and that's how they're getting like this theater troupe together. I'm wondering like if obviously one of them is going to die at one point, but I'm so curious if that's one of the like things we have to figure out, is who actually is dead or just who caused it, and then how this cancer is involved at all. But we'll get these emails and the people are sharing like, oh, sorry, I haven't sent over the schedule, and the people who get what parts, like we're a little bit behind because our granddaughter is sick, and they're sharing like all these details in this email. And then you read the emails responding, and you just get such a good idea of who the characters are via those. Like we have Isabel, who is very much in like everybody's business and wants to know everything about everything. And so her email is very much like, oh, what kind of cancer? And like she's being really intrusive. And then we have Sarah, I think it was Sarah, who is very cold in her emails to certain people. But then with that email, she was like very thoughtful and very like warm and like, oh, I hope you're okay and I hope everything goes well, and like wasn't making it about herself at all. Meanwhile, a lot of the other emails are like, oh, I had a family member who actually died of that cancer. Let me know if you need any help. And like so many inappropriate emails, thoughtful emails. I'm interested most in Sarah because I'm wondering if it's just when she talks to Isabel, because Isabel's obnoxious, if she's being really distant and like doesn't really want to talk to her and is only kind of responding out of obligation. And then when it's other people, she's a lot more kind and thoughtful. But it might be that she's also the type of personality that really wants people to think that she's warm and loving. You know what I mean? So which one is her true self is the question. Isabel seems very like clear cut, that kind of like fake girl who's just in on all the gossip, but kind of also makes everything about herself. And there was this one email exchange from a guy who was sharing who got the parts, and he clearly had offered a certain part to like 2 other people because we didn't get his emails, but we got their emails responding saying like, oh, I'm too busy to take that position because somebody had to leave the play. But then he offered Isabel the part, and Isabel emailed someone else and she was like, I was his first choice. I'm so ready for this role and I'm so the perfect person for it. So I'm gonna do a little bit of grocery shopping and then I'm gonna pick that back up. I think I'm gonna make this a complete physical read. Like I wanted to check out the audiobook because I feel like maybe there's a bunch of narrators, but I think this is the kind of one you can easily zone out when listening to. Do you know what I mean? But I'll see you later. So like I said in my original pitch of this, when it was on my anticipated list, it's the kind of book that you can put together the clues. And you'd think that would be the case for like so many mystery books, but if you read a ton, you know that's not really how a lot of them work. It feels like that's what they want to be or what you want them to be, but a lot of times it's just the characters are putting stuff together that you've already figured out, or the clues like they don't actually lead to the person until the very last clue. So it's like it's not a building of evidence really. And this really is, though it feels much more like a general fiction kind of book. So I think you have to enjoy kind of stories that are neighborhood messy drama and mystery. Like you have to enjoy both of those things. But halfway through, we still don't have very many answers. And this would make for such a good kind of live discussion. I don't think a book club, the way that I do a book club, would, because, well, I'm sure you could have a good discussion at the end of it, but what I'm saying is it would be so fun to read this along with people, like actively live with them over maybe many days. I think my friends Katie and Gavin have both done live shows like this with their patrons, I'm pretty sure, where they pick a book and they are reading it together throughout the hours. And like you stop every once in a while and you talk about things and you try to solve things. And it's probably hard to even know what books would be conducive to that kind of experience, but this one would, because there are just so many things happening all at once, not in a way that gets confusing, but so many things because there are so many characters that are happening in the background and many ponderings that you can have. I'm not even being led in a certain direction, but I have so many questions. Like there could be a million things happening. This little girl's illness could be fake. The person who is creating the cure, who shared the cure, could be fake. The people communicating with the doctors to try to, like, they could not know what they're talking about. The people who are offering to donate to this fund could be fake. There's just so many things that you're wondering about beyond just like who killed somebody and who's the one who actually died, because we still don't know either of those things. There's definitely some, oh my God, sorry. My eyes are driving me crazy. I just took the screens out of the windows to clean them for like the first time in a long time. And I think I got so much dust in my eyes, and then I decided to like clean all the blinds individually, and those I haven't dusted in a while. And there's so much dust in my eyes. A couple themes are like how quickly rumors can spread, and then a mistrust of like medical professionals, and also the pressures of having to be grateful all the time. Obviously people are donating to this cause. It's a huge chunk of money that this family needs. And then people are also questioning, do they actually need it? Because they are well off. So like, could they pay for this themselves? Could they get money via other means? And people feeling like pressure to donate and to put on fundraisers because like everyone is friends and everyone knows each other, and like you don't want to be the one who's not involved, etc. But rather than getting to focus necessarily on the medical treatment of their very young child, this family has to constantly be putting forth effort of how to raise money and talking about all of their needs. And it's kind of like having to expose all of your information in order to get sympathy, and people feel entitled to information about you once they've donated money, and constantly having to like put on this front to everyone that like you're so grateful and everyone is so wonderful, which like obviously they are, but like you have a dying family member who should be getting all of your mental space, but instead you have to like perform for other people. And then once in a while Just like I love in a mystery book like this, you'll get these people, like detectives, who are combing through all of this evidence and all of these emails that they have access to, and they're going, what do you think about this? They're very short. I wish they were a little bit longer, kind of parsing through what we've already read and what we're even thinking as the reader, collecting it all and saying like, what do you think about this? And do you think this means this? Love those portions. Honestly, loving everything about this. And it is very much drama first. It's very slow, but I'm so fascinated by everyone's individual perspectives on everything and the way that they're talking to people differently. And also there's only so many characters to guess. So like I could sit here and be like, okay, there are 5 people who could possibly be sending this email. It's probably most likely these 2 people, but it could be this third person. And then by the end, like even as the third person, it's like, well, obviously I thought of that, but like obviously you thought of everyone. You know what I mean? I don't feel like this is going to be one that's trying to pull the rug out from under you. It's just building evidence, and it's really good. Now I'm gonna go wash out my eyes and I'll be back. This is kind of a hard book to rate. Like I kind of want to be generous and just give it a 5-star because I had a really good time reading it. But this is objectively a 3-star book. Like I think this is a 3-star mystery. I wouldn't recommend it super broadly. I'm gonna give it a 4. I think I feel good about it being a 4. Definitely more predictable than I would have liked, but I still think that you could not have possibly predicted every single piece of the puzzle. And from other people's perspective, like maybe that doesn't matter if they can predict like who did it and who died from the beginning, like that's enough to say the book is not good and didn't accomplish its goals. And the little pieces, the other things like people were up to at the time of the death or at the time of whatever, like that doesn't really change their experience and their enjoyment. For me, not being able to figure everything out, though I had a lot of ideas and they turned out to be true, but I just really liked this book. I liked the epistolary format. I liked how thoroughly identifiable all these characters were. The play wasn't too much of it. They were constantly talking about like having to do rehearsal and leading up to the big day and stuff, but it definitely wasn't a book about a play. There could no doubt have been that also included in here. It could have been even more mixed media, but that wasn't a part of the investigation, so it wouldn't make sense. And we are reading it as an investigation, as people are trying to put together the pieces themselves. This is one of the best times I've had reading a mystery this year. And I think one of the only books that is a proper mystery that I've read this year, because so many of them go into thriller territory. So it being on my TBR for 4 years, was it on there for a reason? Yes. Should I have read it earlier? Yes. But do I think that I actually should have waited and found it in this moment? Yes. Because I really struggled to find mysteries that I absolutely love. And this was very much needed in 2025, more so than I needed it in 2021. 4 stars, maybe 4.25, and I'll check in with you again tomorrow. Stay Sweet by Siobhan Vivian, which just sounds like a sweet contemporary summer story that takes place at an ice cream stand. So I started listening to Stay Sweet as an audiobook because I wasn't going to go out and purchase a YA contemporary romance. And right at the beginning, the girls mentioned that they all had fishtail braids in, and it made me think of how much I wish when I was in high school I knew how to do hair, or I ever did anything cute with my hair, because all I ever did was straighten it. But the girls who showed up with their hair, like they clearly spent many minutes doing it before school, I was always really impressed by. So I'm attempting to do fishtail braids, but they look really super hideous. And then it reminded me of why I never did my hair. I think it's because I just don't have the patience for it. Have you ever, this might be a niche experience, have you ever cried doing your hair? Like, you know when your arms have been like up above your head for so long and it's still not looking how you want, and like you're tired and you're sweaty and you can't get what you want? That's how I was feeling in that moment. And then I ended up with these 2 ugly braids. Anyway, I'm now like halfway through Stay Sweet, and I was liking it at first because it's a kind of like friendship and, well, actually it didn't really feel like relationship-y at all, and it still doesn't. How far am I into it actually? Okay, I'm 2/3 of the way through this book, and if I'm supposed to believe this to be a romance, it's crazy. We have this girl Amelia at the beginning, and she is finally gonna be head girl of her like local ice cream parlor that's run by this woman named Molly, who's run it since like the 40s, when she put all of her thought and energy and love into making ice cream, while her like fiance was off fighting in the war. But she never participates in the business. It's like she hires a bunch of girls to run it, and they like never even meet Molly. So she's this kind of enigmatic figure at the top of a mountain. And when Amelia is finally getting to be head girl, this like she just graduated high school, this is her big moment, her big summer before she goes off to university to like run the ice cream parlor and be like the most important. And she talks about all the other girls that she's seen be head girls before and how much she loved them. And I don't know if I always thought this was queer, but when I picked this up, and especially at the beginning, I was like, this is one of those sapphic summer romances that everyone talks about. And I think I feel this way about all Siobhan Vivian stuff, because I remember reading a couple things from her before, and I always think that there's someone else in the story better suited for our main character, and it's just like one of her best friends. So Siobhan Vivian writes these like really passionate, admiration-filled friendships, which I know have a place, but I am absolutely convinced that Amelia and Kate, who are supposed to work at the ice cream shop together for the summer, are destined to be together. Like the way they talk about each other, the way they're trying to plan their futures around each other, like they should be a couple. Yet, Amelia stumbles upon Molly, the owner, dead in the ice cream shop on the opening day, and very swiftly not her grandson, it's like her grandnephew or something, comes in and he's now in charge. Meanwhile, it's always been women before. It's a group of girls who like work together and they work so hard, and he comes into it like a lot of men in these situations. He's like, I know how to fix the business. I know how to run things. All these girls will listen to me, and like I know better than all of them. Keep in mind, he's like 2 years older maybe. And I think the book's trying to convince me that Amelia and him should be together, and I don't see it at all. Like I don't like him, even when the book is giving me moments that I'm supposed to like him. I think he only is nice to Amelia when she is doing something for him. So we're watching Amelia's growth because she has to figure out how to make ice cream, because there's this misunderstanding that he thinks that the head girls, the girls in the ice cream shop, are the ones making the ice cream. And she thinks that he obviously will know all of the recipes, and the recipes are nowhere to be found. And it's like Molly's big, well-kept secret. So they're digging through Molly's house. They're spending a little bit of time together while the ice cream shop is kind of falling apart. And Amelia's best friend, Kate, is taking the brunt of all of this work, and they have this contentious relationship. I do like when books do that and they cause a rift between friendships at the high school age, just going off to college, because I think it's really real, and it puts pressure on relationships, romantic and otherwise, when like you're going separate ways and you have to confront maybe like you weren't the best of friends all along, or there are unsaid things that have been issues in your relationship before, and you have to have these individual character growth moments, and then the people always end up staying friends in the end. I don't know if that's like the friendship story that we're going on, especially if this is a romance between her and Grady, because I don't see them together. She is making the ice cream. She is like working on all of these recipes, and he's like, you're doing such a good job. I'm really happy you're doing all of this. But then his father comes into town and he treats her like a secretary, like she's not doing all of this hard work, and he questions how much the girls are being paid. He's just not someone that I like for our main character. And I'm also worried that it's gonna be like she saves the ice cream parlor and then decides that making ice cream is her biggest passion instead of going off to school, just because I want her to have bigger ambitions. And there's nothing wrong with staying in your hometown, but if that just suddenly being a switch for her this one summer based on like how this boy is influencing her, I don't know about all of it, but clearly it has me having a lot of feelings. And I do like how Amelia and Kate are standing up for themselves and each other, but it's really this last third that's gonna sell me or not. It's kind of dark in here. I put my giant new whiteboard in the window to help block some of the light, because I'm about to have a movie night with my channel besties. We're watching the new Miranda Cosgrove romance on Netflix, and I need to go to the grocery store and pick up Liam and stop at the library first. I finished Stay Sweet, and I don't know, I think I would have given this a 3.5 if I had read it when it came out and when I was still reading a lot of YA, because I think the story is fine. It definitely didn't really connect with me at my current point in reading or life. I think a 3. Everything like worked out in the end the way you would expect it to. You know, the main character got everything that she wanted, and all the relationships worked out, and she's gonna kind of take. Do you care if this is a spoiler? Are any of you going to read this book? It's not one that I necessarily recommend. Not that it was bad, but she got a bit of ownership of the business by the end. So she gets to continue on the legacy, but in a different way. And she is going to run the business, but she's also going to go to university. So I'm happy for her. The friendship, whatever, the relationship is continuing. I still don't like it, but I think it was a well-structured book. I wish it was more fun, that's all. It was just full of conflict. It was like at every turn, it was an issue with this, and then it was an issue with this, and then it was an issue with this, and it was like, let's solve it, move on, solve it, move on. And I just like to have a little bit more fun, you know? I don't have any other thoughts to share. I generally thought it was a fine time, and I'm excited to start something else tonight after I finish my movie night. I don't know if watching a romance is going to make me want to read a romance or if it's going to make me want to read something completely different. Like I could start Camp Zero or The Breakup Pact. I was looking at some reviews and The Breakup Pact isn't actually a very highly rated one, so I don't know if I'm allowed to switch what I'm going to read for the Read What You Want prompt. I think I am. I think you would tell me that's the whole point of the Read What You Want prompt, is that I can switch and I can read whatever I want. But I'll talk to you after the movie. The Breakup Pact by Emma Ward. I know this is an author other people are really into. This will be my first time. And it says, two best friends who haven't spoken in 10 years pretend to date after breakups with their respective exes go viral. Hello, good morning. Don't look at my cleaning fit. I just got these like boxer shorts from Aerie. They're so comfortable. But I was just cleaning and I was like, I should update you. I wanted to update you on my new productivity life hack though, and that's having a teenager who has a job on the weekends, because I've never felt lazier than sitting around after I drop him off at work. Like he had to work today at 10 a.m. Rob and I dropped him off and then we were like, okay, like what do we do? And I feel so useless. And like, yes, there is time to relax, etc. Like I had a movie night last night. Side note, that went incredibly. I had a really good time. Some of the besties didn't like the movie, but I thought it was really good. Although I'm comparing it to like all of the other romance kind of stuff that I watch, which is only really around Christmas time with, you know, Hallmark holiday movies. So compared to that, I gave it like a 4. These are tire marks on the wall because we don't have a garage. So we put the bikes up on the stairs. And Rob was just like, oh, I might as well take them into storage now. So now I'm cleaning the bike tire marks off the walls. So he's doing that, and he's taking some of my books to donate. If we're talking about, you know, the last 10 years of things I didn't read, what about things I did read and I'm holding on to even though I gave them a low average rating? So I have this whole bin of short story collections and like YA, a lot of YA contemporary that I really just don't need anymore. Things from certain videos that you'll maybe recognize. Let me know if you notice certain ones that are iconic for being a part of certain vlogs. I might need something stronger to get these tire marks off. I have another one of these and it has like a scrubby side. I do also have a magic eraser, but I kind of wanted to just do the whole wall, so I figured I would use these giant sponges. But yeah, on the weekends, normally it's like we're busy with Liam doing stuff, and I use him as an excuse. It's like, well, he needs to be entertained. Like, let's go do something fun as a family. I can't possibly clean the walls, but when I drop him off at work and I know he's being so productive himself, doing all the dishes, I also have to do the same. Although he's actually not even doing dishes anymore. He got promoted to be gourmanger, so he's actually doing like food prep, but it's only for 1 more month. It was like a summer job technically, but he's not done until the middle of October. Anyway, I started The Breakup Pact, and I was kind of like, oh, I'll read the first chapter, see if I'm into it. If not, there's a couple other romances I have to choose from. Kind of expecting not to love it because it doesn't have the best average rating. Almost a quarter of the way through the book at this point, and I'm quite liking it. I don't think it's a life-changing romance, but it is everything that I kind of love because these two people have this agreement they're gonna fake date, and they have a character on the side who's like teaching them how to do it, which would so be me. It's like, okay, here's how they do it in the movies. You have to have a contract, you have to agree on all of these terms, and that's really fun. But I might pop in the audiobook while I continue cleaning. I think I can get it from the library. Okay, I ended up cleaning the entire house. Like the entire house, like cleaning out closets, like scrubbing closet floors. Now I just look an absolute mess. I took an everything shower too at one point, and then I decided I needed to organize more. So my hair's wet and frizzy. Liam's home from work and Rob is playing NHL 26, so that's exciting. I'm nearing the end of my book and I was having a good time with it. There was just though like a sex scene. It was a lot to take in because it was like a life-changing sex scene for this woman, and like happy for her. But I really think an orgasm just changed her entire life, like her entire perspective on life. The monologue I had to read, it felt like it was 7 pages long. "You're okay," he says. "I'm everything." I'm everything I've never been, everything I didn't even know to ask for because I didn't know it existed. This feeling of completion, of no longer knowing the beginning or the end of me, but not minding one bit, because at the borders of it, there was still this, a person who knows me, who looks at me like this, who holds my face in his hands and stares at me with such unself-conscious, unselfish care that it suddenly feels absurd to me that I spent so much of my life without it, that I settled for the brief, cheap shine of any other kind of pleasure when Levi had brought me the sun." I'm somehow both lost and found, somehow outside of my body, but more myself than I've ever been. It was a lot. I didn't even really pitch this book to you, I don't think, when I started talking about it. So they were friends originally when they were teenagers, and then suddenly they weren't anymore. He went off somewhere else. She stayed in this small town and she runs a tea shop. I like the amount of business that's in here. It was actually kind of similar to Stay Sweet, where people were talking about what to do with this company and if they wanted to franchise it, and having to work and like decide on the flavors. And I like the amount of workplace stuff because that's something I'm always looking for. And him and her both independently had these relationships where they had a viral moment, and they have a little bit of fame attached to them, like reality show stuff. And they decide that they're gonna like get revenge on those people who wronged them so publicly by dating each other. It's just kind of the typical like direction that it goes from there, where you imagine both of the people previously come back into their lives and they want to continue the fame and fortune and they want attention. They both can't decide like if the fake dating is actually like good for them because they're starting to catch feelings, but they can't possibly believe the other person is. And then as soon as they decide that they should be together, you know, the other people come back into their lives and make them feel really insecure. It's just like hitting all the beats that you expect it to. I do like the writing, so yeah, I'm having a decent time with it. It feels like a 3.5, and now we're at that contentious moment, and I think it'll wrap up really sweetly. They had a little bit of banter, like he regularly calls her, her name's June, and he'll call her like a different month of the year to be like funny. It's like their inside joke. But there also is a lot of weight here because they're equally grieving a friend who they lost and talking about her a lot and the impact that they had and how they'd want to make her proud and how each of them kind of knew her differently, or she knew each of them differently. And it's like weird to reconnect when there was a specific person that they had in common and they no longer have. So they're just navigating everything. And I'm gonna wrap it up and tell you my final thoughts. I have so little thoughts. Like I really don't have much to say about it. I'm giving it a 3. I'm glad that I read it. I was in the mood for romance, and then I suddenly halfway through was not in the mood for romance anymore, but I had committed to it. So I just finished it. I have said so many times that Friends to Lovers is not for me, but I have gotten more convinced over the years because of certain books and certain authors, and I've appreciated it more than ever before. And so I don't know that I have that many opinions on Friends to Lovers, but this made me think maybe I do have an opinion, and it's that I don't necessarily, and like I can't think of any of the Friends to Lovers I've loved, so maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like in here I wasn't enjoying the fact that the friends were already pining over each other. Like when we met each of them, they already were talking about how like they were interested in each other back in the day. It just like never worked out. And in that way, it kind of felt like a second chance, but because they never shared those feelings with each other, that's why it felt like Friends to Lovers. They were reluctant to go through with it because of their own feelings and because of the perceived feelings they had about each other. And I think because I'm someone who likes enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers, hate to love so much, I like the journey that we go through where people don't like each other or don't understand or recognize their feelings and then come to realize that they are interested in each other. But in this one, it was just like they were always interested. They always liked each other. And that's just kind of boring to me because, one, I like a slow build and yearning, and just the discovery process of like, oh, I'm seeing that person in a different light than I ever have before, especially when it comes to some of my favorite tropes like fake dating or marriage of convenience, where people are doing something, they're making an agreement because they're so certain that they don't like each other and they would never fall for each other. So there's no risk in going for this fake situation. But in here, the stakes felt so high because there was emotions involved from the very beginning. I don't know if that makes sense or that checks out with the other Friends to Lovers, but that's how I feel in this moment, because I don't really have much else to say about it. I do think that everything was fine in here. The business was interesting. Maybe I don't really love the reality show component or the fact that they each went viral and they were talking about how the public was paying attention to them. Like, I don't really love a fame story, but again, I have been more into those in the last year, I would say. All in all, I don't know that I'll read from Emma Lord again because this just felt fine to me when the setup should be my favorite. So I can't imagine I'd love anything in the future more than this, which I was set up to love. Those are my thoughts. And tomorrow I'm actually going to start Camp Zero as I go to bed, because I read the first chapter, I don't know, last year, maybe the year before, when I was reading the first chapter of like everything on my TBR shelf, and I can't remember the rating that I gave it, but I obviously hadn't unhauled it, so I was intrigued enough, but I need to remind myself of how it kicked off and what it's actually about and why I think it has a low average rating. I'm excited to explore that. I don't really get why this one has a low average rating. It feels like a lot of other romances that I've read. Then I put Camp Zero by Michelle Min Sterling, which is this near future climate crisis survival story about a research station far up north and all of the people who go there, what they're accomplishing, the secrets that they're holding, and what they discover about the world while they're there. Look, I pulled all of my fall pillows out of storage and now my couch is all orange again and I love it. And now this one fits in even better, even though I think it's a little dorky. Like it does live out here now. And this one, my favorite, because it's cute and it's comfy. So many people, I guess, buy like pillow covers and then they keep the pillow and they just swap it out. But every time I go to HomeSense, I just end up buying like new cushions. So I have an entire bin that's just pillows for every season. And I feel like that would save me some space if I just like saved the cover or maybe vacuum sealed them. Maybe next year I'll vacuum seal them. There's another one back there. I have started reading Camp Zero and the intro was interesting. It's not the most compelling, but now that I've gotten all three perspectives, I am more intrigued. So the first one we get is this woman who is working, doing sex work. Really, this whole book is set up north, really far northern Canada, because it's a couple decades in the future from now and the world has been decimated. So much of the population is gone because of climate change and everyone is going to where they can survive. So there's people who, most people don't really know what to expect when they get up there. And that feels reminiscent. It's interesting how there are so many dystopian or futuristic books that I think intentionally feel historical in nature at the same time. It's like this kind of cyclical story of humanity where things that have happened in the past are happening again. So there's very limited knowledge and there's just this great migration of people who are moving without a lot of knowledge of what's up there, but just, the ramblings, the gossip they hear that this is a better place. So they move with a lot of hope in their hearts. Rose, who we meet at the beginning, is an escort. She's a sex worker. She seems to be there with another layer of motivation than just survival. She wants to gain some knowledge and accomplish some goals and take that back to her mother, and then they can live a better life. And then after that, we meet this man. Oh, his name started with a G. And he is up there with the understanding that Grant, he's being hired to like teach people in Canada and he's going to be an educator. And he comes from this really elite, wealthy background and education. And when he gets up there, things are very poorly built and he hasn't been led to the right understanding of what he'll be doing or what everything is like up there. And then we flash to this group of women who are living in a Cold War era research station. And they come across some code from the research group that came before them that lead them to believe that everything they're doing is not what they understand. And so like everything is just this kind of vague vibe overall. And I can't tell at this point if it's because there's going to be some really good reveals or if it's because, you know, this is a debut and the author just wanted to throw out some vibes and like doesn't really care about us understanding what's happening. And I wouldn't be thinking that if not for the low average rating. It's not just because it's a debut and whatever. It's that people aren't loving it, and I'm wondering if it's because the reveals are like strange or it's because it's just not as very well thought out as like we all maybe want it to be. What's great is I'm liking all the perspectives equally. Like I'm intrigued every single time we switch chapters. I'm not like, oh, I wish I could go back to this person. But also it's just very bleak and I can't imagine anything good is gonna come for anybody involved. So yeah, it's an interesting reading experience so far. Yet another meh kind of review from me. I, upon finishing this, felt like it was a 3. And then when I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you about it, it was only complaints that I could think of and why it wasn't a higher rating. So that feels more like a 2.75. I enjoyed all of the perspectives. I thought it was interesting who she chose in this futuristic situation to cover and what they were all independently up to and how their perspectives kind of intertwined, or we got to understand how they were more connected than we understood. I do think that this book was a little too ambitious and needed a little bit more time and thought and care. There were a couple specific things where I left the scene or the book feeling like that was an interesting idea, but I don't think the author had a reason to be doing it. There was like, for example, a reveal that I thought was interesting, but when I actually thought about it, I was like, yes, I like a moment like that as a reader. I like being surprised by something, but what was the purpose of it? It didn't go anywhere after it being a reveal. There was no commentary alongside it. There was no continuation of an idea. And that reveal didn't change the book. Not the impact of the book, not anything that happened in the past, not anything that was going to happen in a future chapter. It just kind of was. And so it just didn't feel like it had a lot of thought behind it or intent besides me as an author. I too would be like, what if this was the reveal? And then like I didn't care about the ramifications of the reveal. Like I just wanted something like to happen in the book. And when I say reveal, don't think it's like some big plot twisty book. It's just those are the only thing that I can really pull out is the scenes where we learn something, you know? Every time I go to film, somebody like starts their car and then just leaves it running. Like sometimes for 20 minutes, just like it's just running. And then we get to listen to it and I'm not gonna trap the camera because like I don't think it's bothering you too much. And also I don't know when they're gonna stop. So it's not worth it. One thing I wanted to mention quickly, completely unrelated to the book, was just, I was thinking earlier about what I said about people, you know, making a leap and not really knowing, like kind of risking their lives for a better future. And I said that in a historical context. And that's not historical. Like that is a thing actively happening today. And I think I was just a little clouded by privilege for a second to think that that's not something currently happening, that people don't have or can't have access to all of the information before they make what could be a life-changing, life-saving change in their lives. Back to the book. I think there were a couple stereotypes in here that also made me think this author could have taken a little more time, been a little more thoughtful with what they were talking about. It was surprisingly focused on the gender binary, which isn't something that matters, but something that stood out to me as far as who we're featuring and who was really excluded from the narrative as far as gender in a way that doesn't really make sense. Like, I don't understand why we wouldn't have had more diversity in that in the situation that we're in. And also, we didn't have any Indigenous characters, which like this author doesn't have a responsibility to include, but the setting being where it is and talking a lot about land ownership and talking about Indigenous folks, like not having an Indigenous character at all or a perspective, and maybe she didn't want to take that on, but it felt like the book could have benefited from that for sure. And then unfortunately there were a couple moments that didn't make the most sense. Like, they didn't have a big reason behind them. Like, I didn't understand the intent of them. And there are books like that, right, that are confusing on purpose or ambiguous or don't give reasoning behind things. And it feels like that's the vibe of the book. But because this book is explaining itself constantly and giving historical context and like referencing all of these things and giving answers, it did feel like an accidental thing, that certain moments were left out, certain conversations were left out, and we as the reader were just left with, that's it? Okay, someone made this decision, and like, okay, but like why? Like, why is that the way, why is that direction the one that makes the most sense? I don't know, I just felt very unsatisfying, but not in a fun way. But I still enjoyed following these characters, so it's a tough one. I would read more from this author for sure. I think this just needed a little bit more time put into it. Or even like this could have been a collaborative novel between a couple different authors who are all bringing something to the table, because the concept is really interesting. And one of the specific POVs following all the women was fascinating, and just like wanting to know how they got there and what they're going to do and how they all related to each other. And I just kind of wish everything was a little more built out, fleshed out. This is under 300 pages and it could have used like 200 more, and I don't think I would have gotten bored. In the upcoming book by Oyenkan Braithwaite, it's called The Baby Is Mine, and it takes place during the pandemic, which is strange. I think we're following a character named Bambi who gets caught cheating. His girlfriend kicks him out. He goes to move in with his uncle, but when he shows up at his uncle's house, his uncle's dead and his aunt is there, and she was pregnant, but she has the baby now, but then there's another woman living there. All right, it is now Wednesday. This video was supposed to go up Saturday. I ordered this book from a place I didn't want to order it from, but that's the only place it was available. It was supposed to come the next day. It didn't. It was supposed to come the next day. It didn't. It was supposed to come the next day. It didn't. It was supposed to come today. It hasn't shown up. So I finally re-downloaded my VPN, got on audible.co.uk, had to change my credit card to say that I was in that country, and then I figured it out and I got the audiobook. That was the only way I could access this book. It's not available anywhere in Canada, not as an ebook, not as an audiobook. I didn't want to because I already spent $20 on this book, but it doesn't physically exist anywhere. Like, it's not at any local bookstores. It's whatever. You don't need to hear my excuses, but just in case you were wondering why there wasn't a video on the weekend, that is why. And I was still going to push this video until I got it in my hands, but I don't have a video to post today and I didn't post on the weekend, so here we are. I'm now listening to The Baby Is Mine by Oyenkan Braithwaite, and it's only like a 2-hour audiobook, so absolutely flying through it. And I probably just should have done this on Sunday, but I was like, it might come. I waited until literally 5 p.m. on Sunday, the last possible moment it could have arrived, and I could still get a video up on that day, like in a reasonable time frame to read it and post. So I should have just done this earlier, but here we are. This is a story of this man named Bambi, and he is in lockdown with a girlfriend, and he cheats on her and gets kicked out. And then he goes to stay at his aunt's house, and when he arrives, his aunt has had a baby. And there's another woman living there who was his uncle, or is his uncle's like mistress. And so these two women are living in this house alone together, and they have this baby. And both of them, when he arrives, claim that the baby is theirs. And he has no way of knowing who the baby belongs to. And though there are DNA tests available, it's early days of COVID, and the hospitals are just not prioritizing that type of medical care or investigation. So he's just there, like helping take care of this baby and dealing with these two women scrapping. And that's where I'm at. I think like a quarter of the way through the audiobook. I like the premise. I think it's interesting. I'm still as interested now as I was when I put it on my most anticipated, because I really liked My Sister the Serial Killer. And she has another book coming out soon, or has it already come out? I'm interested in this, but I always figured like, let's read this short little novella first. And when I originally put it on my anticipated, it has this like logo at the top, the original cover, and I thought, like in my mind, I was like, oh, this is an Audible exclusive, or this is a ebook exclusive, so I never tried to buy it physically, and then to find out that it's only available physically in the country that I live in. But what it's called is like a quick read, so maybe like the people who are publishing it put out a bunch of these just short novellas, and that's how they label them. Anyway, you didn't need to know any of that information, but just know I tried so hard to get this book, and it's probably going to show up in a couple days. Final thoughts. I am giving this a 4. I'm someone who is set up though to already like a short story and a novella. So if you don't already like short fiction and you pick this up just because like it's an author that intrigues you or whatever, I don't think like this is where to start with short stories. I don't think you'll automatically love it. But for me, it definitely fits with a lot of things that I enjoy. I don't really need a long drawn out story. I just want to dip into someone's life for a second. There was a reveal and explanation that I found fascinating. And I agree with a lot of the negative reviews. This is another one that has a really low average rating, is the characters are unhinged. They're stupid, they're ridiculous, they're making bad choices, they're annoying, they're unlikable, and I like books like that. That is the intent of the story, that everyone is just like, everything's so chaotic. You're trying to figure out the truth along with the main character, and we essentially did, and I had an interesting time with it. I don't think there's much else to say. There wasn't a ton of commentary on COVID, but it definitely felt like it was set in a certain time, not in a way that this will necessarily would be considered a classic for people like, you know, 50 years from now to go back and be like, this is what COVID was like, because there are going to be books like that, which is very strange. I think this is good for what it was, and I'm happy to have read it. My thoughts overall, I think, are the most important thing. I went from 84 books unread from my entire list to 79. With that said, I think there's only like, I would say less than 20 books on this entire list of most anticipated over 10 years that I could actually see myself finishing. A lot of them are just things I no longer read. A lot of them are actually books that I DNF'd already in the first couple chapters. And a lot of them do have low average ratings. And I'm not swayed, like my opinion on the book at the end is not swayed by the average rating, but my experience reading the book often is. And that's why I hate waiting years to read books on my TBR, because the low average rating, like honestly, a lot of these I haven't read because they are, you know, I haven't heard anyone talk about them. And the rare person I have heard talk about them didn't say the greatest things for the most part with the most of the books on this list. And I'm always down to read things that other people may not like because I have an unpopular opinion a lot of the times. But there is this thing that happens when, and I'm probably sure seen it happen in this vlog, where I am thinking about why people don't like it while I'm reading it. And like, that's not my favorite reading experience. Like, I'd rather just be in the book, but I can't help but think, okay, this is a reason why. This is the reason why. And okay, let me like frame my review at the end to help the people who might want to read it or might not want to read it, and who is this really for. Meanwhile, when it comes to a brand new release that has no ratings associated, I have no expectations, but I also feel less, combative, or less like I need to be the person who's letting people know, is this accurate? Who will actually like it? And I can just exist and I can just say what I think about the book. And I'm maybe one of the first people to talk about that book. And like, that feels better to me than waiting years and trying to dispel or agree with someone else's reviews. I know some people feel like they love going and reading reviews before they review the book themselves because it helps them hone in all of their thoughts. I don't like doing that. I don't want to see what anyone else thought when I actually go to review the book. But because I have a fantastic memory, that's just one of my things, I can't help but remember what everyone was saying about all of these books. Even if I haven't looked at a review for Camp Zero for 3 years, like I only briefly maybe browsed the reviews years ago, but I remember the overall tone of everybody's thoughts. And it's hard to get that out of my head. Like I said, it doesn't actually change how I think about the book, but it changes how I'm actively reading it because I'm looking out for things that people didn't like. And I don't do that for books that people rate really highly. I'm not looking at like, oh, what do people like about this? I can't wait to see what people like about it. I don't do that with the other way around. Anyway, glad I did this. Didn't find new favorite books, but I did read especially the mystery thriller at the beginning that I feel like I really needed that win. So hopefully this vlog was good for you. Interesting. I know I didn't hit all 10 years, but I like doing my little spinny wheel. And I will see you in another video very soon, sooner than you think. Bye!